All right, so here we go. My first YouTube video. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and here we go, finally. So I enjoy watching YouTube videos. I learn from others, especially on the film side, cinematography, editing. I'm an independent filmmaker. I got started 3.5 years ago volunteering, and this past year I was hired for my first movie in March, and then the one I'm going to talk to you about today is the second one I've actually been hired to work on. I write, produce, and direct. So I'm not used to being on this side of the camera, so bear with me. It's my first time. But like I said, I've learned so much from others watching YouTube, content and just, what they've done. And I just wanted to share my story a little bit. Maybe I can help and inspire somebody. This journey has been a really long and enduring process. It was really challenging to get funding for this project. But I did. It took a very long time, but a lot of phone calls, lots of no's, but I finally got that yes. So I want to share with you a little bit of that and about the project. So in December of 2020, so exactly 3 years ago, I started reaching out to Eddie Fiola. Eddie Fiola, if you don't know who he is, was basically the Michael Jordan of BMX in the 80s. He was the king of the skate parks, won nearly all the championships, and there was a movie called Red in 1986 that was based loosely off his life. He did most of the stunts for the main character, Crew Jones. Actually, that bike right there that was my bike as a kid. I got that bike about a year before, which was really cool, and then to see it on the screen. But Eddie wrote it himself in the movie and did stunts for other people as well. BMX kind of went out of favor, and I want to say around 1990, his contracts, especially with GT, his main contracts ended with Vans GT, and he was basically homeless, and he had to reinvent himself. And for about 3 years, he volunteered, maybe closer to 4 years, he volunteered in Hollywood as a stunt guy. And he finally got his break, nice paid role on the movie Independence Day. And from there, he's gone on to do some of the biggest movies there are. The Hangover, Dukes of Hazzard, The Italian Job, Indiana Jones, Spider-Man, just some massive productions. And he's just a class act and just an amazing guy. So I reached out. I was a big fan as a kid. In 1987, I went to a GT competition where he was going to be, and I was so excited to try to get to meet him, and it just didn't happen. I didn't meet him, but I did catch an AME hand grip he threw out to the audience that day, and so I still have it all these years later. But I reached out. I had his poster on my wall as a kid, just big fan, and kept reaching out, and I couldn't get a response from him. I now know that about the 25 emails I sent that I was just making up were all wrong emails. That wasn't his. It was basically the one I didn't try. He didn't really look at his DMs. So I finally messaged his wife and told her what I was trying to do. And she said, I'll get him to respond. And I'm like, well, you don't understand. He just doesn't respond. She goes, no, you don't understand. I'll get him to respond, which he did. And we started talking, and probably 4 months later, the reason I was reaching out is I wanted to write his book. I've been writing books since 2007, and he agreed. And so it was pretty cool to write my childhood heroes book. Here's a copy. When I Was King, the Eddie Fiola story. There's also the poster back there. So it was really cool. I was excited, and I'm like, man, this is fun. I get to finally meet him. I flew out to the LA area where he lives and got to meet him and ride with him a couple days. It was just a dream come true. And like, we became friends, and I'm like, man, I don't want this to end. Let's make a movie. Let's do a documentary. And he's like, you go get the money and we'll do it. So about 9 months later, which was just this summer, like June of 2023, after tons and tons of no's, I mean, most people would have quit, but I had so much fun writing a book, and his story so visual. I knew his story had to be told in picture, not in words. I finally got funding, and we got the green light, and probably took me 10 months in producing, before we got into production. And first film week was in September. It was amazing. I wish I would have documented it like I'm doing now. And we had another week of filming, and this will be the third. We should wrap up this week. But it's just been an amazing journey, and I just wanted to share because his story is amazing, and I'm so blessed that he's allowed me to tell it in the book and now in the documentary. But none of this is easy, and if I can, just help one person out there that's struggling, because I was, and just don't give up, just keep trying. I mean, I don't know how many no's I got for funding for this, but it was a lot, like well over 30. And I mean, I could have easily stopped, let's say it was 29, and not got that one more phone call, which turned into, hey, give me some more information, which turned into, hey, let's get on the phone with Eddie. And then it turned into checks being written, which was awesome. So just don't quit. Just don't give up. If it's something you're passionate about, just keep grinding. And I'll get into later videos on how I got into film, because I worked for 2.5 years volunteering before I got this first paid gig in March. So I'll share all that process because it's not easy. It was a lot of hard work, a lot of, you know, you know, you have to give up, right? I mean, it's like I had to focus on making money, but then the rest of my time, instead of watching TV and sleeping and all, I was focusing on, working on films for free, not getting paid, because I knew eventually, I would get my break and I would start making money. And now I'm full time in the film industry, which is amazing. So I live in Louisiana and I spend, go back and forth to LA a good bit, and we make movies here as well. But some are out there like this one, and then as soon as we wrap with this movie, we start a new one at the end of January in the Temecula, Los Angeles area. So there are some opportunities out there. So I'll just have to be out there, which I enjoy. But anyway, I just wanted to share a little bit of, the story and what's going on and how it came about. So we leave tomorrow morning. I'll document the trip. We have some really amazing interviews. We've already done some awesome ones. Eddie, grew up riding in these shows with Gail Webb, and Tony Hawk rode with him. So we interviewed Tony Hawk at his private half pipe, which was really, really cool. Eddie was sponsored by Vans. So Steve Van Doren's in the movie. We had to go to the home office. So, his dad started Vans, and just really cool experience, and just some other, really amazing people along the way from his journey. This trip we interviewed Ryan Nyquist. I think he's won like 17 medals in X Games. Just an amazing. Terry Adams, a current Red Bull athlete, on this trip. Ed Helms too on the first trip, which was really cool. That's a great story. I kind of forgot about that for a second. So on the set of The Hangover, Eddie is a stunt guy, and Ed Helms obviously is one of the main actors. So Ed was a huge fan of Eddie as a kid, like I was, had his poster on the wall and all that stuff. Well, he sees Eddie Fiola, and he kind of stops production for a little bit and runs over to fanboy, to Eddie, just a stunt guy, which was really cool. And then afterwards, Eddie tells me the story. He tells other people that all the other stunt people are like, who are you? You just an average stunt guy like us. Why is the main guy running over to you? Why are you special? So it was just a really cool story. So Ed's a fan. So Ed, agreed to do an interview for the movie. He was really hospitable and, just welcoming. And he let us come to his private office, and it was just an amazing experience. So on this trip, we actually going to interview Steve Caballero, skateboard legend, Bob Morales, who grew up, riding with Eddie, and, started Dino. We already worked with Gary Turner. I forgot to mention him from GT. And, Martin Aparijo, who was in Rad with Eddie, and they grew up riding with GT, and their kind of careers kind of paralleled for a long time. Who else? We did Gail Webb already. On this trip, we also have Don Hoffman, who was a videographer for the King of the Skate Park competitions. And then Larry Edgar, another BMX pro. And then we'll actually go to back to Tony Hawk's half pipe, and Eddie Fiola is going to ride. He hasn't done it in a very long time. He's just coming off a major hip surgery. He's 59 now. So he's going to attempt to do some of the things he did when he was 18, 19, and 20, which is really cool. So Tony will be there, and Ed Helms is coming to hang out as well, and our film crew. So it's going to be an amazing week. I hope you stick with this video and check out, because we're going to have some really cool footage to show you. Thanks.